There are very few places for homeless men to find shelter and a bed in parts of this province. Mary Baxter covers the Southwest for our Ontario hubs, and she's been looking into that situation in her area. She joins us now from our studio at Western University in London for more. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jan. It's good to be here.
So, your article looks at rural areas outside of London that are having trouble housing the homeless. Tell us about that.
Sure. Housing in rural areas often there's a homeless situation, just as like there is in cities, but it looks different, or traditionally it's looked a lot different. What happens is that people tend to be more hidden in their homelessness. What I mean by that is they might couch surf, they might stay with family or friends rather than living on the street. And traditionally, it's been very hard to get a handle on how many people are going homeless because of that in rural areas. It's actually an understudied situation. But this summer, something really changed. Is particularly in Exeter, which is a town that is north of London. It's about a 40-minute drive north of London. And there, people started to see something they'd never seen before. They saw people sleeping on the town hall steps, on the steps of the library. They saw people pitching tents in the municipal campground where people are only supposed to stay for a night, and they were staying for long periods of time. And all of a sudden, the homeless situation that we've seen in many cities, like London and Toronto, where there have been such a crisis in this type of thing, it's happening in these smaller towns as well. And people grew very, very concerned about it.
Now, in your article, you mention how men are especially in need of beds. Can you share a little bit about what you learned about that?
So one of the things that I learned when I started to look into this issue is that there are shelters for youth in some areas. And when you look at the region, I looked at a region that is Grey, Bruce, Huron, and Perth counties and the kind of associated cities and towns. And that area is think of this, 3 times the size of PEI.
Wow.
And in this area, there's shelters. There's shelters for women and children who experience abuse. There's shelters for youth. There's not a lot, but they are there. There's a seasonal shelter for adults in general, and that's in Goderich. But other than that, there are no emergency shelters for men. None.
Now, a United Church in that area is offering a solution, aren't they?
They've been looking at this issue for sure. A person by the name of Heather McKechnie, who is with the Exeter United Church, is one of the people who's really looked into this issue and started to mobilize her community around it. Heather helped out to establish a steering committee on homelessness in Exeter. They established it last fall. They started off with trying to gather both input from the community on what to do, and then also to educate the community about homelessness, especially this acute form of homelessness. And then they've also been trying to work on some solutions. Now, in Huron County, because they do have a seasonal emergency shelter in Goderich, one of the things that they do for that shelter is if people are in other areas of the county and they need the shelter, they will actually drive them to it. Service providers will drive them to it to access that help. But they didn't, in Exeter, shelters are expensive. They didn't want to duplicate what was already there. So what they've decided to do is to expand the number of beds in a transitional housing facility for men. There are 3 beds there now. And what's meant by transitional housing is that it provides shelter for men for up to a year. It also helps them to access other support to help other challenges that they might have. Of course, studies have shown that many people who end up homeless may be dealing with issues of addiction or of mental illness. And then, of course, housing affordability is the other big issue that is pushing a lot of people onto the streets right now.
Well, I'm sure we'll keep an eye on that one for sure. I do want to switch gears a little bit to an upcoming story that you have about the wildfires in Australia, and it has a southwestern Ontario connection to it. Now, you spoke to 2 volunteers about their work in New South Wales, Australia, saving and feeding wildlife in those areas. I want to pull some photos up. Can you tell us what we're looking at here? I see some crew in a back of a truck putting together something. What is that?
They're putting together what's called a fruit ringlet, and it's made up of fruits like apples and melons, and they're used to feed an animal that's called a flying fox. Now, you might get the picture of a fox flying. It's actually a really large bat, from what I understand. And they wrap those, yes, around trees for them to be able to feed on. So that's one thing that the group are doing. They're also providing water for wildlife that are trying to escape the fires. And then they're actually rescuing wildlife. They've been doing things like grid searches to try to find injured animals, such as the kangaroo that they rescued and took back. It was burned, all of its legs were burned. They had to help with that. And the kangaroo, the roo, had a joey, which is a baby. And so they've helped to rescue that animal as well. But they've also been helping with other rescue efforts in the area by providing, backup support, that sort of thing.
Now, one of the volunteers you spoke to is from the Kitchener area. Why is it important that they travel to Australia to help out?
So I spoke to Heidi Bechtold, and she said that it was for her, it's a calling. Now, the group that she was going with was run by Brad Pattison, who is based in Kelowna, BC. Both Heidi and Brad are dog trainers, so they're animal people already. And Brad has done a lot of these kinds of rescues. He's worked in the floods in and around BC, in Calgary, I think it was, and then fires in BC, and Hurricane Katrina, also he was involved in that. So this is Heidi's first time doing this type of rescue. But yeah, she says for her, it really is a calling.
All right. Thank you so much, Mary Baxter. Of course, you always bring us some great stories from Southwestern Ontario. That's Mary Baxter, our Ontario Hub journalist covering Southwestern Ontario. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.